Today we're going to be discussing Disney's Moana 2 and exactly how bad it was. Until this sequel was lumped in onto it, Moana stood alone as one of Disney's best post-2000s movies, continuing the legacy of the traditional Disney movie formula, but with its own original flavor and active departures from that long legacy as well. And the proof was in the pudding. In 2023, a full 7 years after it had been released, Moana was the most streamed movie in the world that year, which is how exactly we got this. Something that, until that news came out, was meant to simply be a Disney Plus series. But no, once they had those statistics, they knew it was time to switch gears and convert it into a movie. Financially, as a wise choice. But as we'll soon see, as much as this always should have been a movie, its origins as a TV series would prove to be its greatest downfall. We begin with a shot zooming into one of the islands. Well, it's not a clean zoom anyway. There's some abrupt cuts in a shot that would have been more pleasing as a more sped up zoom. The very first shot of the movie, and we've already got critiques. Plus, it's just a straight cut to the movie's title, so they're certainly not wasting any time here, are they? Hang on, are those the crabs from that Pixar short? The one with the Piper bird? It's probably not, but I'm guessing there's not many ways you can really animate a particular species of crab, but you never know. Quite swiftly from this point, we now join the slightly older Moana. And in fact, probably the biggest win of Moana 2 in general is the animation. And that's it. I mean, just look at these landscape shots going on here. There are what I'd call some animation goofs coming up soon, but in general, this is definitely the strongest aspect of the movie. It does have that Disney budget behind it after all. But anyway, Moana then takes this opportunity to immediately spell out the premise of the movie.
Gotta be other people out here, other villages, and one day someone's gonna...
Ah, that was quick. Literally a couple of minutes in, and we have a premise and escalation. I'd call it efficient if it wasn't just done from her standing on a rock and saying it. Already, some symptoms of a more rushed pace from the TV series era on this project are starting to rear its head. And after a bit of slapstick, she gets incredibly excited to discover a pot. Okay. Although one of the better additions is having the tension of her leaving the island resolved, and now having her exploring nearby islands as a thing she can just do now. Which leads us into the first song, which is fine.
Finally, we're back to who we're meant to be.
Here's the thing. I can't call any of these songs outright bad. This is the year that Amelia Perez blessed the world with its presence after all.
Sex change operation.
I see.
However, what is immediately apparent is that they just don't quite match up with the first movie's truly unique and iconic discography. It's popular to be on the Lin-Manuel Miranda's overrated train. I mean, hey, I saw Mufasa. He's certainly not perfect, but you have got to give it to him that he absolutely smashed it out of the park with Moana 1. And the feel of those songs seem intrinsically tied to his sensibilities, and no matter who you get instead, it's not gonna add up. Particularly when it feels like different writers trying to capture the vibes of those original songs. Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear are accomplished songwriters in their own right, but it just feels like you give them a project to make their own, not try to get them to recapture someone else's distinct sound. With this particular number as well, it draws a parallel with Where You Are in the first movie, showing development in the island's overall mindset. However, the result is we get a song that feels more literal in describing what's happening against the more thematically emotional message of Where You Are. And it just comes off as a knockoff. That original song set a clear theme and obstacle for Moana to overcome whilst introducing us to the village. Here, it feels like they're just melodically telling us what's happening before the chorus of finally we are who we're meant to be. I mean, great, the whole island's been on the self-help books, I guess. Hey. Anyway, now a respected hero of the island, Moana returns home to great celebration. Upon her boat that, just as a reminder, was sold as the most elaborate nachos plate of all time in cinemas. Probably a product on this island now as well, as everyone's gone full Moana fever. There are people dressing up like her, just takes me back to the red carpet scene in Scooby-Doo 2.
I love her so much.
God, I love those movies. She also gets a chance to catch her father up on the others out there subplot. I guess we're going to be doing a different version of Frozen 2 with this one. Oh, and also, Moana has a sister now. As we learn from every Disney straight-to-home sequel in the 2000s, every Disney sequel needs to have a mini version of the protagonist who may supersede them in years to come. Starting with the protagonist showing them stuff from the first movie and recounting those events. Oh look, here we go.
I am Moana Motunui. You're born my boat.
Although you've got to appreciate that she's not Moana's daughter like in other examples, keeping Moana firmly unique from the other Disney princesses in the old romantic end of things. There's also another chance to further establish the premise of the story with the classic "it's in the cave" drawing, so it must be done kind of thing. It works though. I prefer here to when she just abruptly spells it out off the top of the movie. This is where we cut to Maui the Rock Johnson, readying his rehearsal for his live action performance coming soon. Man, why are they doing that? I just think that's gonna be all kinds of awful, but let's see how it goes. It's certainly interesting to come back to this character after The Rock's public approval's taken a dip as well. He could do no wrong at the time of the first movie, and I guess maybe that's why he's doubled down on a return to this franchise. Anyway, we join him as we speak to a glowing orb with a weirdly normal sounding voice.
And why would I risk breaking the rules for you when you've already caused my boss so much trouble?
I think part of it's the modern day jargon as well. I mean, demigods using words like boss kind of feels out of place. Not a major thing. Maui's dialogue has consistently been 2010s coded, so I shouldn't really be surprised. Anyway, this scene leaves no ambiguity of what's going on here, just saying completely upfront the stakes of the plot like a Saturday morning cartoon. Tell, don't show, it's only TV.
If you try to reconnect the people of the ocean, he will destroy you. And then he'll destroy her too.
Man, we really are missing the mwahaha part of that villain dialogue. Just one of those things that may have brought along more peril from a gradual reveal, but never mind. On to this little guy taking his shot at an age-inappropriate relationship. Great. More importantly, it transpires that this kid is pining after
our people's first tall tale in 1,000 years.
Because Moana is getting a new title in light of her new multi-island ambitions, along with a reminder that the first movie's better.
And show us all just how far we'll go.
I see what you did there. Which leads us to the most literal flashback to ever be put to screen. Like, has any other movie literally used a flash of lightning to do a flashback before? I actually kind of like that. I respect that creative choice. The animation is also stunning during this sequence too. The intense action and of course acknowledging the whale in the room as well. All leading to Moana getting her fourth ghost talk with her pseudo Obi Motunui.
You will go to the Dagobah system.
But instead of finding Yoda, Moana is told she must reconnect her people or everyone will die. You know, low stakes stuff. Alongside the trope of establishing that the huge stakes of the first movie are actually just a small piece of the puzzle.
Returning to Fiti's heart was the beginning.
But not to worry, she's left with the advice to follow failed SpaceX launches as a reference point.
A fire in the sky will guide you.
I think the one thing about this plot point is that it's basically just Moana going off to find an island again. It's just the first movie with more tolerance from her dad about the situation. Or, if you like, less emotional stakes. To be fair, that's the island she specifically had in mind after a supernatural lightning bolt specifically targeted her. I don't think there's much of a debate room on this one. And thankfully, they just had some pictures of it on a piece of carpet. So that helps.
Only way to bring our people together again.
Maybe they could have dug this thing up earlier when Moana had already made it clear that that was what she was aiming to do, you know? With a star then appearing in the sky, it is Moana's destiny to follow it. But of course it's gonna take her about 17 business days.
Winds have changed, tides turn me far away from shore.
It's hard to describe, but there's just a fundamental awkwardness to the rhythm and flow of these songs. I didn't really like Frozen 2, but at least the songs were generally pretty good and memorable. These songs are, okay, sometimes not great, but most notably not memorable at all. That catchiness just isn't there, which does stand out when the original had at least 3 full-on earworm tracks, 2 of which became all-time iconic songs. Here, at the very least, I just can't see them justifying a sing-along release of Moana 2 because no one would actually know the words.
It's not like last time.
You can say that again, though the fundamental plot is pretty much the same. Angry God threatens the island, that's the key to everything, we know the drill. But before Moana heads off to repeat her journey after being told to by a ghost and then being given a shooting star, we can't go much further still without Ghost Gran coming to say hi.
Grandma.
I ate my grandma.
Now, honestly, it's a pretty well-handled scene and very touching in its own little bubble. You know, definitely a soft way to introduce kids to the idea of grandparents moving on and maybe pushing you forwards, and I can't begrudge the movie of that.
I can't see where your story leads, but we never stop choosing who we are.
But bloody hell, can we move the plot forwards a little bit? I know we said the movie's going fast when the title card showed up, but we're now going into our 5th interruption if you include the song, the granny, and now another song. Because on to the next day, and this time we have a new addition, Moana having a crew. Starting with this character, who has an extra edge because of the highlight in her hair. I guess this tribe does highlights now. Alongside an old guy who made a couple grumpy jokes in the opening number, so I guess he's established. An interesting choice with 2 younger farmers behind him, but sure, the comic relief is more important than giving elders a break. And of course, the guy who knows all the prophecies. So there we go, some change up from the first movie. Let's see if any of these side characters actually work and get any screen time and actually contribute to the plot line or really give any real substance to the continuing franchise that Moana is likely going to be milked for, because this is Disney and this is their most successfully streamed movie. Again, when this was for TV, I can see why they could have chosen an expanded cast for this. The little sister also tries the old junior hides in a basket to come to routine. Glad that doesn't actually work, as I think we've seen that a few too many times before. Please do not remind me of the Megamind Peacock show. Instead, Moana introduces her to the ocean spirit in some continued revision of the first movie's events. It's a sweet scene. The scenes with the sister are cute enough, but I do feel like the connection between them could have had more than that one scene from earlier, you know? In fairness, I don't know a solution to that, as more screen time with her would have just slowed down the plot even more, so I don't know. I just both don't have a great deal of emotional investment in this separation of characters I've only just learned existed, as I haven't seen a lot of them together, whilst at the same time, Moana, you got places to go! Go! This scene remedies that slightly, at least the first half, but then also that just makes that worse. Really written into a corner here. As finally, she has a final farewell to her family. And so the crew sets off. All the while, Maui is now doing a Thor Ragnarok, whilst getting blasted with, I don't want to know what that is. That happens before this crew of dysfunctional characters now aboard Moana's boat prove to be exactly that, dysfunctional. Like the highlight character, who keeps trying to cut into the boat for some reason. They are all meant to be comic relief, but it's actively annoying how truly unhelpful each of them are. And don't expect any depth out of any of them. They've got an existential disaster they're all meant to be responsible for now. Can't they just put their annoying personality traits to the side? No, just cut another bit off the boat. I'm sure that'll be helpful. Time for Moana to break into the teamwork song number.
I don't do sing-alongs.
Don't worry, my guy. This movie won't have any because no one knows the songs. Also, what are you doing in a Disney movie?
Don't you know together's better?
Honestly, no. You seemed more functional when you did this alone, and these guys are just here to make annoying mistakes. Is that the lesson we're learning here?
The odds are we'll end up in watery graves. Observation.
Wait, that's her attitude now? I swear she was absolutely jazzed to come along earlier, joining the legendary Moana, who's done this before, only to now be the cynical we're all gonna die character. Buddy, why did you come? I can't believe any stretch of character depth is doing a 180, and that's all we'll get. This guy gets the vibe though, although he does then make the pitch to turn this into a sing-along.
Everybody now!
Unfortunately, they didn't get as far as pushing the old guy into the sea, as the comet blows up, and the coconuts are back. Just playing all of the hits except for the original songs at this point. Is it fan service to see the original movie expanded with more? Or is it lazy writing to just relive the hits of the past? Well, it's a win for animation again though. The big creature behind them being genuinely creepy. Though maybe an L for yet another piece of modern coded dialogue soon afterwards. This writing, man.
That is fanfic.
Followed by a choice bit of gross out humor.
What is that?
This to me is one of the animation goofs. It just kind of looks out of place with everything else, and just feels like a nod to the fact that kids are obsessed with slime, you know? A little bit too brain rot coded for me.
Tastes like coconut.
And yep, if that wasn't enough, the toxins come from the slime creature's nostrils. Oh boy. Plus, I guess it's meant to be a flopfish, you know, like that ancient meme. Oh, I mean, it's still a species of fish, but I feel like there's meant to be something internet coded here still. I do like that the Kakamora do have some backstory here, though, a sort of explanation of their actions in the first movie. Genuinely a nice piece of extension, probably one of the first we've seen. We then have a simple task made not so simple with contrived bad luck to pad out the scene. Thankfully, the Super Ninja Coconut's here to absolutely take things to task, also knocking them into the abyss. Cut to another 2010s coded gang. I don't know how movies are still referencing this thing. It feels so ancient. It's 12 years old. And if outdated isn't the tone you're going for, how's about buttloads of toilet humor instead? Hey there, you're halfway through, so come along and subscribe. You know how this goes. See you for the second half. But at least it matches up with that slime stuff from Maui earlier, because turns out that's where he is too. That being said, I do love the clam. A big megalomanic creature is an element of the world building I would love to see more in movies. It's just a shame the two real examples I've seen in modern animation media is Strange World, where it's long buried, and Moana 2, where it's probably going to be relatively buried. But I love the concept of giant creatures like this. And the introduction of the coconut guy is probably my favorite teammate. Somehow making him all show and no tell because he cannot speak makes him the most successful side character. I genuinely love the little dude.
Can I get a chee-hoo?
They're all together in this big old slime farting clam. Summarized with a line that most people have probably thought collecting the rocks filled bottles on set.
This is what happens when you meet your heroes.
Meanwhile, Moana has quite a horrific vision of her sister turning into a bat. Yep, time to see what all this bat demigod business is all about.
I got this.
You got this.
Yeah.
I think this as well is a more solid addition to the lore, establishing that Maui isn't the only demigod person going around, along with a classic line said by all sequel characters who are retrospectively added into an original movie character's backstory.
Maui never mentioned me?
Yeah, that'll do. One of the praises I will sing is that this is kind of a reverse twist villain here. She's set up as if she's a bad guy, complete with a song at the same point as the first movie's one with the big Jermaine Clement crab. That's right, Clemente! Sorry, I saw the Minecraft movie recently when I recorded this. Matangi's song itself, on the other hand, it's kind of the same symptoms as all the other ones. Fine, just not memorable. Maybe my favorite, it's not great.
We're gonna get lost, cut loose, and lose our way.
The visuals are great, the vocals are nice, you can tell there's a funky edge to the song conceptually, even the messaging of the song is interesting, and yet the final result is just missing something, even with all that going on. The subsequent reunion of all the characters just feels a tad rushed as well, and you can tell this was probably the end of one of the episodes at some point.
Maui looked good.
On to the next episode, scene, and the reunion with Maui is not what they showed in the trailer. Not mad, to be fair, I thought the boat snack gag seemed a bit forced. Spoilers, they do shove it in right at the end, in a way that almost feels like a self-aware, aha, you thought we missed this bit from the trailer, but its appearance at the end feels just as forced as it did in the trailer in that respect. But instead of that all happening here, Maui tells Moana how
You're gonna die, your crew's gonna die, so is the chicken.
Not to worry though, we got more modern jokes to throw in.
The ancestors wouldn't have called.
Unless it was a butt dial. That'll make sense in 2,000 years.
I'll be honest, my very quiet cinema screening did laugh at that line, so maybe sometimes a 2000s coded joke works. You just gotta play it cautiously. Unfortunately, there's at least 10 lines now that could do with that kind of tag at the end of it. Anyway, can we rain check one thing?
If he knows so much, how come he didn't tell you it was sunk?
Whilst he didn't mention it in the vision earlier, they definitely mentioned that the island was sunk on Moni's weird carpet prophecies before they left. They knew this going into the mission, assuming they could read pictures, that's all I'm saying. Also, notice that the crew have been fairly mute for a while now, beyond Moni. I felt like old Highlights McGee and the old guy are just sort of redundant right now. A classic problem.
We really gotta talk about your recruiting process.
Couldn't agree more, Maui. They don't seem to be organically this incompetent either. You know, it's an incredibly contrived, useless characters bump into each other moment, when in other moments, they somehow know what they're doing. You know, it's just confusing. And then Moni dies. Of course, he gets rescued, but I do kind of appreciate almost dying actually has an impact on him though. It feels like a moment where it'd be easy to move on from this, but no, this guy actually acknowledges, oh wow, I almost died. And seeing Moana react to the consequences on everyone else is refreshing for a movie that in general has seemed a little less connected to her personal journey beyond wanting to connect the islands. The first movie had an adventure, but it was also thematically tied to her personal journey as a character. This is just another journey, this time with a crew that could invite the emotional journey of teamwork, but does she need to learn that when she was the one who assembled the team? Apart from the Bat Lady telling her not to be afraid to get lost to re-find her way, I just don't think the character is as character-focused as that first movie. I mean, there are some solid character moments in there, don't get me wrong, like this death acknowledgement one. Or like here, where Moana and Maui finally have a solid exchange after over an hour of movie.
I couldn't see a way forward, and then someone came along.
It's nice. I'm glad that the movie finally paused like this, but is it enough? What journey as a character does Moana go on here, other than the literal one of finding an island? Even then, she just teleported to a portal to get here. It's not really much of a journey. From here, the stakes do get more emotional, but I just wish that could have been there for the rest of the movie. Also, as with this scene, clearly the movie's at its best when Moana and Maui are together, and whilst I don't think it hurts to separate them for some storytelling, it's a shame we've had to wait until the final third to actually have them together. We haven't really had much storytelling in the meantime. Anyway, this quiet moment soon turned into Maui trying to follow up "You're Welcome," unsuccessfully.
Come on, Moana, go get your destiny!
I mean, to be fair, that was never gonna happen regardless of quality. But for me, the song we do get feels like a car that growls but never really starts up properly.
Who are you? Who are you? Who are you gonna be?
It's fun, the visuals are nice, but again, falls short from that perhaps unfair comparison. I do wonder if the TV series would have been judged on that in the same way. The one positive I would give is that it's kind of nice to hear Maui singing about Moana with a similar energy of "You're Welcome" rather than, you know, himself. Not to mention this fourth wall joke.
Still not a princess.
Well, a lot of people think you are.
Also this split-second adult joke I didn't notice my first time through. Over to the others who predictably managed to lose all of their incompetent qualities to fix the boat. Fine. Though weird that the old guy did the decorations when Moni's been the artistic character. You know, maybe that would have made more sense. I don't think the writers know these characters. I think they're all interchangeable. But I do like the classic "he's the plan" trope being done through Maui's tattoo vision. That's a nice creative touch. Less creative is this line to up the stakes from the first movie.
It'll be harder than anything we faced before.
Well, definitely for these guys who've only had to deal with farming and doodling carpets until now.
Now I kind of miss the lava monster.
I don't know, the first movie's climax was pretty hardcore as well, but yeah, raising an island is quite intense too, I guess. In fact, let's be honest, this climax is probably the best part of the movie. Maybe they wrote it in reverse after this big reveal. And the visuals of the storm god are again incredibly creative. You know, in general, the climax is entertaining to watch. There's some serious action and threat of the god's weather-level powers definitely shown there visually. The tornadoes, the waves, it all looks great, but isn't it just so convenient that the god completely ignores Maui because of the human characters? Or just outright isn't even really there? It's just the remnants of his attack. Like, it's too dumb to consider that the demigod that can pull the island up might be a more pressing issue. Or how about just showing up in general? We see him in the post-credit scene, physically there. This is just remnants of magic existing.
Nolo knows he found it.
Ah, okay, I stand corrected. Appropriately, with the rock involved, they managed to pull a San Andreas and climb over a wave on a boat. And then... whoa. This is a pretty traumatizing fake death scene. They find him quick enough to settle the kid's tantrum, but man, that guy was struck by like 5 bolts of lightning. And again, though they've not been as focused on Moana's character story-wise, her act of diving down to the island is both visually and emotionally a great epitome of her character. The one shot of lightning reaching for her as she reaches for the island is absolutely stunning. Again, the animation, beyond the slime slug thing anyway, is the strongest part of the movie. And just like Maui a minute ago, the lightning striking her is just as brutal. Like, this movie all of a sudden went hardcore. I mean, we do then get yet another fake death sequence played out like we've seen a million times before. Protagonist unconscious, other main character holds their body while singing emotional cultural song. We know the drill. And yet the visuals of the ancestors all appearing around them is an effective one. And they don't resolve it in as basic a way as other animated movies do. Again, I think this climax is the strongest part of the movie, but it's still not without its flaws. I mean, it's something far more than just a resurrection, as Moana's now become a demigod herself. How about that? That's just such a neat way to escalate things beyond just finding another island. But at the same time, Maui just lost all of his powers in that lightning strike and immediately gets it all back, which I think is just boring. That's the more standard fake death sequence that just makes this all the more tropey sequel TV series bait that it is. Playing with the idea of Moana becoming a demigod while Maui has lost their powers is an interesting reversal to set up for a third movie, where the whole arc can be about Moana gaining and learning more of her powers and Maui coming back to that state, you know? But no. Whether they do even explore the idea of Moana getting more powers as they get more experiences would be nice to see in the sequel. I hope it's not just a single minimal arm tattoo because, you know, some real life reflections holding her back. If this is all we see by the end of the third movie, I'm gonna be seriously disappointed when compared to Maui being a full coat, you know? Please give it the Far Cry 3 treatment and she gains more tattoos as she does more things. I know she's already plenty subversive as a Disney princess, not princess character, but I hope they just don't, you know, screw this bit up as well. What's also, I think, a little bit too neat is just how the islands all immediately send people out within minutes of being reconnected. It's a nitpick, but yeah, like, it's convenient, right? Like, what, when did these guys set out? Were they all converging on that island before it was revived? Like, what is this? We've spent half of the time waiting for Moana to leave the island. The rest of the movie is the other 50%. It feels like it anyway. There's been so little to talk about with the scenes and the sets that we've literally skipped to the end already. She went out, saw the coconut at the same time as a clam, met Maui, went to the final boss. There's no real substance here, but we made it to the end.
This is just the beginning.
Well, I guess that's the next 3 movies booked in already, just to finish off. Along with the best song in the movie, because it's one from the first movie. It's just a shame that with a sequel prompt like Moana 2, one of the largest new Disney successes with a nice cultural backing to it, we couldn't have explored the why behind bringing these cultures together a bit more, with some kind of common history or something, as that would have put some more emotional weight into this moment and explored more of the source material that it's bouncing off of. It's just a reminder that there are some really strong parts of this movie, and it could have been very much a great successor to the original, but it just doesn't do any of that, because it's just a flat, modern-day Disney sequel. For most people, I'm sure it's fine, but it's just a standard Disney fare. An okay story, middling songs, a decent afternoon for kids, but that just doesn't feel like enough of the follow-up to what is still the golden standard of modern Disney movies. Is it absolutely terrible? In a bubble, maybe not, but as a sequel to the most successful Disney movie on streaming services, yeah. In the same regards that The Incredibles 2 is terrible when you compare it to Incredibles 1. It's just not even close to great. That's such a shame, because it's tarnishing what was genuinely some of Disney's best. A bit of further redrafting and some better songs, and this may well have been different. I have no doubt that the fact that this was changed from a TV series contributed to the more clunkier elements. To be fair, whilst I caught a couple moments in there, it's not like you can see the scarring of where each episode would have started and finished exactly. They covered most of those grazes pretty well, but that doesn't mean the grazes weren't there. I think it worked out better as a movie because, as we've seen with most of the higher budget Disney Plus originals, most of those have wound up as a movie broken into chunks. And I can see that they probably would have liked one song an episode or something, but having the whole thing assembled as one item was probably for the best. It's not for me. I'm glad some people liked it, but those golden moments within it show that there was potential for something special that could have been done here. Maybe it should have just been, you know, 2 movies. Is that too hard to ask? First half adventure with Batgirl more involved. Second half, the Storm God guy and becoming a demigod. Maybe. It both covered too much and too little in one fell swoop. You don't need a portal in the middle to splice 2 whole movies of content together. And for the love of God, give us some screen time with the side characters so we can get to know them and stop making them all such flat cliches. Whatever, they don't care. They just made $1 billion off of a movie that was meant to be for TV. Quality be damned. You can bet Disney's planning another 5 movies as we speak. And I'm not kidding, they have a beat-for-beat take on the original Thanos post-credit scene at the end.
No, we're just getting started.
Why does he say it so awkwardly as well? Alongside a quick appearance from Jermaine Clement's Crab, I guess he's part of the anti-Moana Avengers situation here. But not good enough to actually get another scene, because I guess it would have actually tarnished him. They already have. He says something that's not that funny, and that's that.
Funky crab legs. Funky crab legs.
Moana 3, here we come. Moana, the Infinity War, apparently coming soon. Each Island, that could be a movie. But that is, at the very least, the unfortunate, non-surprising, Disney's terrible Moana 2. For now, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Tell me your thoughts on Moana 2 or how they could have fixed it. And on that note, I shall see you all in a little bit. Bye-bye!